Greetings and salutations. This is going to be just a quick video, and it's kind of more of a developer video than it is a YouTuber consumption video. And it's to really go over the discussion about fuel and energy because I've noticed a few things. I think probably I'm sitting at close to 500-600 hours of gameplay in the persistent universe in the galaxy, through the experimental branches and on the vanilla online server. And you can see here I hit P and there's these individuals that are online. And through my space travel, I've realized, jumping around these planets, jumping into atmospheres, boosting out atmospheres, I've kind of noticed a few things. Kind of, you can call it like a play test or through. And I right out here, just for kind of some context, I have, come on, open up. I have a couple different ships out here of different scale and size. Oh, I can see all that damage on there. Different vessels of class ones, class threes, with different engine configurations, medium thrusters. Like this is kind of my all-purpose. I call it the Mule. It's my all-purpose vehicle. It's got 12 thrusters on the bottom, but I've pretty much run some logic to where it only runs the 4 on the bottom and then the 6 in the back for propulsion. And then once I get into an atmosphere that's got high gravity density, I can throw this secondary switch and it just flicks everything on, and I'm running 12 thrusters at the bottom and 10 in the back. And I got a 30,000 pound fuel tank. I go P, not pound, volume fuel tank right here, manage. And a couple things, and I set this size, this volume for a reason, and now I can go back to the constructor. So a little pretense there to kind of set the stage for the discussion, because so it takes 100 of those fuel cells to fill that up, and I'm with those 100 fuel cells based off of the gravity environment. Like if it's a tier 4 gravity, it'll burn through all that fuel in less than an hour. And then if it's a little bit more moderate gameplay, like if it's mainly in space and it's a lot of flying around with just the 6 thrusters in the back, maybe it's 2 hours, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. I mean, it says when you're flying around, it says like, oh, you have 3 hours of flight time, but it burns through it much quicker than that. So I was looking at the fuel, getting my head wrapped around it, the fuel size, and thinking about if I was the developer, right? How would I structure the fuel packs? Because I believe there's some movement because they've expanded the universe. And it's not just in the one galaxy. I believe there's kind of room for expansion and a rework. They badly need to do a thruster rework, and I've done a video on that where I talk about how it's kind of on a bell curve. So the larger thrusters give you more thrust based versus the number of thrusters, and you significantly reduce the CPU, but you have a much higher fuel consumption, and it allows you to jump farther, right? So that's my idea around the thruster rework. But there needs to be, to co-witness that or to co-marriage that, there needs to be a fuel rework. And I was thinking for the percentages need to be reworked, but also they need to add, they have a fuel cell, they need to add a fusion cell, they need to add a large fusion cell. So they have a fuel pack, a large fuel pack, they have a fusion cell, they need to add a large fusion cell. And so right here it requires promethium and 10 hydrogen bottles, and it gives you a volume of 300. So a large fusion cell, let's say it requires 10, the ingredients don't need to change. 10 promethium, 10 hydrogen bottles, but then you add 10 Pendax to it. And, maybe you can even keep the same graphic and just kind of put some more purple in here to represent the Pendaxium. Or maybe put 2 of these side by side, and then you have the large fusion cell. And I think I would take a hard look at the numbers, right? I don't know how they come up with the 30. Is it because it's, your output is 10? But these numbers these numbers, really it medium. I guess these kind of represent a medium, and then a large. The scaling is weird, and the scaling is really weird. So like here we have these give you 30, these give you 150. So the natural progression is double that as 300. So if we double that again for a large fusion cell, would it be 600? So I kind of feel like these need to round out at maybe 500. So this would be 250, and then this would be 100, 250, and 5. But like the scaling kind of needs to be reworked to where the amount of what you get out of it, it just needs to be kind of put on a spreadsheet and reform. Like this whole fuel energy thing needs to be put on a spreadsheet right next to the thrusters, and put that stuff on a bell curve, and then put the thrusters, the small, medium, large, and they need to introduce us a extra small uh, thruster as well that consumes significantly less fuel. They need to, they can even keep the same graphic, but they need to incorporate that into the CVs also, an extra small thruster. But I'm realizing that the fuel is insufficient. There needs to be another fuel module on the back side of this. And even if they kept the volumes the same and just added another fuel module that incorporated pendaxin for their extra large quotation mark fuel cell, I think that would help a lot, because you reduce all this manufacturing process to instead of having to make 100 of them, I would only need to make 50 of them to fill up my ship. And so instead of manufacturing 100 of them every hour, I would only need to make 50 of them every hour, because it's crazy how much manufacturing I'm having to do on the fuel side just to maintain persistent play. Go down a galaxy, scout everything out, come back up, go to the next galaxy, scout everything up. I'm just burning through. Some days I'll burn through 1,000 fuel between my flying around and doing exploration, and the flying around and filling up the water constructors, and then flying around and filling up the miners. I'll easily burn through 1,000 fuel cells a day. And if I could just introduce a kind of a little bit larger volume size, to where I could cut down that manufacturing process, because it's not really, if it was automated it wouldn't be as bad, but because there's no automation in it, it's just a lot of dragging and dropping and clicking and inventory management to try to get that fuel out of the miners and out of the water consolidators. Am I saying that right? Water constructors, water consolidators, to onto the ship. A lot of yeah. So larger fuel cell, please. Large fuel cell, and maybe, I don't know, change these numbers up a little bit, like 25, 50, 225. Maybe make change this to small, medium, and then put a 3-pack and have it be a large. So 25, 50, 100, and then do the same with the fuel cells, small, medium, and large fusion cells, and just kind of broaden the consumption. Oh, and one last thing, it would be really nice is if I built a solar base, and I have my batteries, and I could use the solar to or let me go to solar. I was highlighting the wrong thing. So I have a capacity of 3,000. It would be nice if this capacity uh, I could tap into this capacity and drag it over to a fuel tank at some way. This could, maybe, let's say you have the battery capacity, but then you could build a modulator, and that modulator would gradually fuel your fuel tank, but at a loss. So let's say this 3,000 battery capacity would give me 300 fuel if I turn the modulator on. And let's say it took like 10 hours or something. But because you're playing the solar game, you're kind of playing the long game. So it would give you a there's a loss because you're converting it into a fuel cell, and that conversion process takes a significant amount of energy. So on the back end in the fuel tank, you only end up with 300, but it would cause me to get in there and kind of do some math and engineer a system and enough batteries and build to a certain schematic in order to get that to work correctly. And that would force you to spend more time in the creative mode, which would drive further gameplay and get game development, and further build the workshop and et cetera, and so forth. But yeah, that's kind of my logic around uh, fuel cell development and battery expansion idea. But as always, let me know what you think, and thank you for watching this video.